Hello and welcome, everyone. Again, this is Doc Williams with Brand Factory Inc. And in this section, we're going to be talking about the GaryVee Content Model 2.0. Now, this is made so you can define and refine your message to make 30 pieces of content from one interview. Now, this is an update of the GaryVee Content Model, the original. Now, why did we make this? Well, the original had a structure of reverse pyramid where you had pillar content at the top where it would be long form, keynote, Q&A, vlog, whatever. And then they would analyze and repurpose the content with 30 pieces of content. Now, that's great, and that works for some people with large teams and for them to execute. But what we found with businesses that had a small team, or if they were doing it themselves, they kept running into the same problem over and over again. You try to do that, and it's great in theory, but it was really hard in practice. So what we did was we looked at our clients' biggest pain points, and that was trying to apply Gary's brilliant content model in finding a voice and honing the message before they just put out content. Right? So this upgrade focuses on purpose and specific positioning of the content rather than let's create something large and then distribute it. Let's think about what we need to do beforehand, and then when you create that large piece of content, it's with purpose. You can start weaving that storyline in the way that you need for your business. So what did that look like? Well, the original content had content equals more content, right? The pillar content over here, micro, and then distribute it across social media. With us, we have purpose leads to creation. So we focus on the type and purpose of the content, and then we create the pillar content, and then we create micro, and then distribute it. So we find your purpose and best type of content iterations. So this allows you to have a strong foundation with the pyramid content, with documenting all those things, but it's still to be the catalyst, you need type and purpose. So what does that look like? Well, we have to first finding purpose and defining authority. So before we go in and say, hey, start recording yourself or just turn on a mic, or those things are important and it's good to get started. But the problem is it's not sustainable if it's not the type of content that you like to create or people are asking. So there's some things that you should be asking yourself. Do people ask you for a certain type of content already? Do they love what you do and they just want to have a day in the life? Are they always asking you questions? Do they like how you interact with others and you ask them questions? So you have to find out, is there content that you're already doing that people like anyway? What feels the most natural? Perhaps you're shy and you don't like being on camera right off the bat, but you have a great voice, you love talking, and you can do this, with your eyes closed. You would love to do that. Okay, well, keep that in mind. Do you like being the interviewer, and you like having people and you just love asking them questions and you're fascinated by people? You've got to find out what format feels natural for you. And if you don't know what it is, you can ask friends, or you can think about a time where you created content and you felt really natural about it, or you felt really good about it. The last one, what has been successful in the past? Now, this is important because you have to find out this bell curve, what's kind of in the middle between what's natural and what you've had in the past. Just because you might like podcasts, has that been successful? Do people like it? Have people enjoyed it? Perhaps the medium of video, people like watching the videos more. So what has worked in the past, success in the past? And then also you have to quantify, what do you quantify as success? Views, people actually taking your advice and using them. What are you quantifying as success? What we're saying about success is it should be you created content that drove them to a decision or action. The next point, and you should write all of these things down before we get to the next point. You have to examine what's happening, because if you're just watching this passively, you could, oh, this is great information, and then you forget it, or you don't really take a look at what's happening. You have to make sure that you're aligning this with what's real and what the real outcomes are. Now, this is just an example. Do people ask for a certain type of content? Maybe tutorials or how-to. What feels most natural? It might be video walkthroughs, right? Because you're already creating tutorials. People are asking, oh, I love those tutorials you're doing. Perhaps making walkthroughs might be the best one for you. What has been successful in the past? IG stories or IGTV, right? So now you're saying, okay, based on the platform, it's been successful. People are giving me a lot of love or praise on these platforms, and these are the mediums. I'm doing it on stories, and that seems like it has the most traction. The next thing is, what are your goals? Are you looking to create content for brand awareness? And how do you want to be perceived if you're doing brand awareness? Authority. If you're trying to do this for authority, how are you uniquely positioned? Are you an expert? Are you a novice, but now you're showing like, hey, I'm going to show the process of being a novice to being an expert, and I'm going to document it. What do you want to do with this authority? Impact. What do you want to happen? Do you want to change the industry? Do you want to change the world? Do you want to change how people think? Your community. You're going to pick one overarching goal. Now, some might say, well, I want to do all three of those. And in time, you could. But what's going to motivate you to get to the next level is you picking one goal and allowing your content to resonate with that one goal. Now, one might lead into another. Brand awareness might then allow people to know that you're an authority, and because you're an authority, now you can impact your industry. That's all possible. But what is your main goal? Answer that, and that allows the process to be a lot easier. So brand awareness, you might want to become the go-to resource for your industry. You might want to be synonymous with your service or field, or to use the story to connect with a larger audience. So perhaps you're still building your audience. Perhaps you're still needing to sell products or services. Brand awareness would be desirable. Perhaps you already have enough clients and you want to do more and you want to have authority. So you want to be a pro. You want to make sure that people know that you're the best in your industry. So, and you want to have the appropriate positioning for your service. So perhaps you've been doing a service that is X amount, but now you want to 5X it. Well, if you have authority, it's a lot easier to do that. And then become a thought leader in my niche. Perhaps you're saying, listen, a lot of people are saying things. I want to be the thought leader. My methodology works. The last part is impact. Maybe you want to change how people learn this skill. Change the standard procedures for that industry that you're in, or change individuals' minds or social change. All those things can happen with impact. Choose now which one you want to do. Now, moving on right here, in this guide, and you have a downloadable copy of this to go through this in detail, but this allows you to see how we apply the content funnel, and we use the case study of we use this by when we got the chance to be with Vayner Sports and how we use that opportunity to really build the rest of our brand at that time. But we did it with purpose. We knew what was going on. We knew what we wanted it to do. And we specifically went step by step. So let's go through this case study real quick. And also, there's going to be a clip to the YouTube playlist to show all of these pieces of content as well. So our pillar content was interviews. Now, why do we lean on interviews? Well, we started out as local DJs, radio DJs. I was a wedding DJ since I was 12, and we learned about our strengths. We could interview people pretty easily. Also producing videos, me and Jay with One Room Media, we had created a large amount of work. We knew how to work together, so we decided to do that format. Now, purpose, what did we do? Well, we actually had it in 3 different ways, and we had it in this progression. Number 1, authority. We used the halo effect by securing an exclusive interview with Vayner Sports and visiting Vayner Media. From there, we showed potential clients that we had a relative positioning to one of the largest media companies in the world, right? So we knew what we were going to do with that content. We created signature magazine articles about it. Actually, the first print article about Vayner Sports. And from there, we showed, hey, this is why we're top of the league. We're top of digital marketers, right? The impact was Gary Vee liked and retweeted the interview after we published it. They gave us traction on social media. People saw that he retweeted what we were talking about, all of those things. And then on top of which, that allowed us to share what Gary thought of us on YouTube and other platforms, and it just snowballed. And then people saw the impact that we were making. And then brand awareness, this interview would allow other media outlets and industries to see that what we were capable of. And then that allowed us to cover the NBA G League, the WNBA, among other things. So we had a purpose and a succession of one thing after another. And because of that, we worked with, again, G League, Creative Live, the Arnolds, WNBA, Vice, ESPN, TLC, and then AppSumo, where we continue to create different products and services, all because we use this approach. Now, later on, we're going to show you how to do this, and we're actually creating Notion templates. Again, repurposing. We had a process of how we did that and how we arrange our ideas, and then we partnered with another startup known as Notion to create templates for people to now use it for their business. So if we're looking at this, you establish pillar content and you document it. You document it by establishing pillar content, long form, audio, something that is long form that you continue to use. And then you establish pillar content. So you look at, are you going to use daily vlog, dedicated serial like a podcast, podcasting interviews, consumer reviews, live streams? You got to find something that is long form. Now for us, what we're using is mainly Build With Me for our long form, but also interviews with pros in the industry. So we're using two different types. But again, it's the same thing. We're showing expertise and we're showing what's going on in the industry. And then we create micro content. Now, the way that we do that is we're using short form pieces of the content of the long form to go out as memes, quotes, and stories. For us personally, we take the summary of every Build With Me and then we put it out. Or we have AppSumo product review videos associated with long form Build With Me, then we put it out into the ecosystem. And then we create micro content with purpose. So once we have a pillar content, we repurpose the best moments on very specific platforms with a specific message in a different way. So talking to someone on LinkedIn is very different than Facebook, Instagram, Snap, and Twitter. We're creating a very unique experience with that micro content based on the platform. And then where it talks about distribute pillar content and micro content, we actually use a platform that does all of those things for us. But now we're having a waterfall of what's happening, right? We distribute the pillar content, and then we're going to micro content from there. Micro content lives over here. We might create articles on Quora. We're doing it on LinkedIn. We're doing it on Medium. And then we're getting an insight of what's happening with the community. We're seeing the comments. We're seeing, once we do a call to action, we're seeing how they're responding to it. Are they going to download what we're telling them to do? Are they favorable and they're talking about this is great content? We're looking at that. And then based on the community-driven micro content, we create more content of what has traction. So for instance, we had content about creating a business, and we had it tech focused on different platforms that you need to learn how to use. That became very big, so that's how we started working with AppSumo. That's how we started doing with Build With Me, and we got a big pop for that. And now we're looking at, very specific tutorials like Zoom that are catching fire, and we go from there. And the last thing, again, you distribute the micro content again. And now we have a full ecosystem of what's happening. Pillar content, micro content, listening to what's happening, that community insight, and then we're creating more. So as you go through this, you're going to see the brand factory way of what we're doing with Vayner Sports. We had a long form interview. We went there. We traveled to Vayner Media. We also toured the office and got to meet the production team. So the first round was we had the main interview, and then we cut that main interview into a day, so a vlog, a micro doc. Then we had clips of what Gary was AJ was talking about, the tour, and then we had more micro content. Then we looked at the audio experience. We actually turned it into a podcast. We made that, put that on iTunes, all of those things. And then distribution, again, we put out the micro content, see how people reacted, put out the interview, got recognition for that. And then again, we looked at purpose and we saw everything that we needed to do to make sure that we were moving to the right direction and evaluated what the next steps were. So again, you see how we worked with so many different people. That was because we worked with purpose. We looked at the model, we iterated on it, and then we got to the next level. So are you ready to create content with purpose? If you are, come talk to us, schedule a call with us, and we'll get you to the next level. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.